And so we entered Georgia, ancient Colchis, the land of the Golden Fleece. Georgia has a wonderfully rich history. For centuries it's been a bridge between East and West. And that bridge was first created by the ancient Greeks, who began to found colonies here after 600 BC, as they saw it, following in the footsteps of the Argonauts. And the Greeks are still here.
This is Michael's mom, and the children are preparing pictures for us.
My God, you're not going to believe this. Look at this.
Они подъезжаются за фотографиями.
Look at this. Do they know any of the people here? Or these?
Of course I know all of them.
No.
It is my father.
Это там Сацанин, Сидерова, вот его сегодня.
The faces of the people.
Сигрик.
The lyre player could almost be Orpheus. There's Atalante, the runner. And there's young Jason himself, big-boned, open-face.
Very slow, very slow. Yamas.
After sweeping along the coast of Colchis, the Argo entered the mouth of the river Phasis. In early Greek myth, this was the edge of the world.
See the surf line there, which is the waves meeting the river as it pours out. We're going to try and get through that.
Today, the Phasis is called the Rioni.
Struck land already. He's just walking across the estuary now just to see whether there's anywhere where the water's deep enough for us to get in. Ancient heroes may have sailed into the Phasis, but of course people don't do that today. The port's the other side. No problem. Fantastic. Can you remember the way out? Yeah.
Now, strange as it may seem, the Argonauts had got all the way to Colchis without stopping to think how they would get hold of the fleece. So they held a council of war. Some of the heroes favoured using force, but Jason suggested a more subtle tack. "My friends," he said, "you stay here on board while I go and parley with their king. I'll sound him out, see if he's arrogant and confident in his power, or if he's friendly. Maybe we can strike a bargain. In exchange for the fleece, the heroes of Greece could offer to vanquish his enemies."
To the ancient Greeks, Colchis was a sinister, alien land, ruled by a cruel king, Aeetes, whose power depended on keeping the Golden Fleece. They called his city Ea, and they placed it somewhere in the waterways and lakes behind the coast. But was it a real city? Needless to say, archaeologists have combed this part of Georgia looking for the city of the sun god. In the 1870s came rumours of fabulous finds near the town of Varni. After every torrential rain, out of the hillside were washed gold ornaments, jewels, rings and necklaces. The whole hill, said one of the newspapers, is full of gold. The gold of Colchis even drew the legendary excavator of Troy, Heinrich Schliemann, the man who found the jewels of Helen and the mask of Agamemnon. Perhaps Schliemann hoped to find the golden fleece itself. Modern archaeologists have found much more gold at Varni and a walled native Colchian city.
So what have you got here? Do you know yet? Do you know what
Its heyday was from 600 BC, long after the Bronze Age, but just the time when the Greeks were planting their first colonies here, when the myth had become fixed in Georgia.
Do you think there could possibly have been an expedition here to this place in the Bronze Age to Colchis?
Maybe in the myth, some memory preserved about the first explorers of the Black Sea area. And maybe this is connected with the period of Greek colonization.
In the 8th century, when literally was fixed this myth of Argonauts or the Golden Fleece country, it was the Colchis where it stopped. The traveling of this myth stopped in Colchis, and after this I think Colchis is this country rich in gold. The El Dorado of the ancient Greeks.
Fantastic.
And it's sexually rich in gold.
And it is
Sexually was rich in gold.
rich in gold, yeah.
Who were Argonauts? They are a good, well-organized band of robbers.
A band of robbers? A simple act of piracy? Could that be the truth behind Jason's quest?
Had a nice town, isn't it?
A Roman writer says that in his day the descendants of King Aeetes still ruled here and mined gold in Sphani, today's Sphanetti.
Richard, right. I'm Michael. Very nice to meet you.
Sphanetti is a wild valley up in the Caucasus. Only days before we arrived, it was still closed to outsiders, and we could only go there with the protection of local families.
So we've been given a few rules. Don't look at the men for too long in the eye. We're taken as a threat. Don't look at the women at all, and never show fear.
Heracles, no doubt, said the same thing to Jason.
This is a place where, in my opinion, Argonauts turned to that side, because that time the roads were going in a different way, not like today. And this was the main caravan road.
This was?
Which would go to Mestia and everywhere.
Across the Caucasus?
Across the Caucasus.
Wow.
Up here, the Greek writer Strabo offers another explanation of the legend. He says they panned for gold using fleeces.
You create a kind of wooden box, you put the branches in at the bottom, and when you put the fleece in and pin it down, you put the whole thing into the water, so the water rushes through it like a little sluice.
This is the gold, like top quality. We call it bajaglo. It's from this river, yes.
Another little clue to add to the myth, isn't it? Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello. Nice to meet you. Hello. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Not yet. Oh, not yet. Bit early in the day for that. What's brought the soldiers up here?
It's internal troops. Internal. I mean, it's basically police. For the moment, they came to guard you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, there was potential trouble on the road yesterday. Potential trouble here can rapidly turn to AK-47s being fired. Several centuries of blood feud. It's best to send the police in. Hello. Hi, guys. Hello.
Here in Svaneti, you can still get a sense of the Colchis portrayed by the Greek and Roman writers. These towers have been built since ancient times for defence against their own neighbours, against blood feuds carried on for generations. To the ancient Greeks, this was the very image of the barbarian.
In a society like that, loyalty to the clan is paramount. Hospitality is a sacred duty, but also a way of showing your power and your influence. Women are zealously guarded. The men rule. And daughters must obey their fathers absolutely, especially in matters of marriage.
Svaneti is so isolated that although they're Christian up here, songs and beliefs still survive from the pagan past. Songs like this, an ancient hymn in praise of the sun god, sort of thing Jason might have heard. That night, the Argonauts were invited by King Aeetes to a banquet. As the drink flowed, Jason calmly asked the king for the fleece.
Thank you.
King reacted with murderous fury.
Yes.
But remember, the success of Jason's mission will depend on the goddess of love.
Now the whole story changes in tone. In fact, it becomes a different story. It becomes almost a Greek clash with the other, a clash of cultures. And a new character appears in the story who will take the story over. A character who will turn out to be one of the greatest characters in all of myth and literature, the daughter of the king of Colchis, Medea.
Now an oracle had foretold that if King Aeetes were to lose the fleece, he should forfeit his throne. He wanted to kill Jason then and there, but he could not break the law of hospitality. So he too set Jason a task that none but the gods could hope to fulfill. In my meadow, I have 2 fire-breathing bulls, he said. Yoke them. Plough the field, sow it with dragon's teeth, and then defeat the army that will spring from the ground. Do this, and I'll give you the fleece. The king thought the tasks impossible, but Aphrodite, the goddess of love, had done her sweet work. She made the king's daughter, Medea, fall in love with Jason. That night, Medea visited him and gave him a magic ointment that made him impervious to the fire of the bulls and the swords of the earth-born men. In return, Jason promised to be her husband and to take her back to Greece.
As with all great myths, there are many strands to this tale and many meanings. The last stage of our journey here in Georgia was to find the fleece itself. Up in the remote region of Peshavi, you can still visit the sacred grove. Here they still sacrifice the ram and show the fleece, and you can still meet Medea's descendants, the women oracles. They're Christians today, but they did these things in the age of heroes. And after the sacrifice, they eat the flesh and drink to life.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Before the communists stepped in on this land, people would walk
I do vegetarian too. Thank you, thank you.
Jason and Medea enter the sacred grove. Medea has prepared a magic potion from her herbs, which she anoints on the eyes of the serpent to make it go to sleep. And then Jason takes the fleece down from the tree. In some versions, he actually kills the serpent. But in one ancient version, he seems to have been swallowed by it, and is only regurgitated and brought back to life by the intervention of the goddess herself. And maybe that gives us a clue to the original form of the story. Perhaps, in origin, it's a kind of initiation story in which the young hero undertakes an impossible quest, enters the realm of death, and is redeemed only by the divine woman herself, whose lover he must become.
So with the golden fleece in his hands, Jason swears by the everlasting gods he will be true to Medea forever. The ancient storytellers told many versions of Jason's return to Greece. Some took the Argo round the eastern part of the world and up through the deserts of Africa. Others through the frozen wastes of the Arctic, past Britain and through the Pillars of Hercules. Apollonius says they went up the Danube and carried the Argo through Central Europe to the Mediterranean. But all agree that they arrived here at the little island of Anafi, which the god Apollo made rise up to save them from a last storm.